Well, good afternoon. I'm going to provide an in-depth update on the reemployment assistance. Before I do that, we do have some announcements about testing. We're continuing to expand testing, and particularly with walk-up testing sites. This week, the state is opening another 5 walk-up testing sites, and these have been successful at going into underserved communities, giving folks an opportunity to get tested. This has been done throughout the state. You're going to have one in Opelika, Daytona Beach, North Lauderdale, Miramar, and Sarasota. And those will be able to do at each site 200 individuals per day. We're now up to 15 drive-through sites that the state is supporting or administering directly. And of course, there are other sites throughout the state that healthcare providers have set up, which we really appreciate. Of those 15 sites, we are running at about half capacity. So if people do want to get tested, they have an opportunity to come get tested, and I would advise them to take advantage of that. The one site in Broward, the original CB Moore Park site, typically will do between 500 and 750, which is a really good number, and I think it did 755 yesterday, which was great. Most of the other sites run between 33% and 50% capacity over the last couple weeks. And so if you want to test, they're now in all corners of the state, Panhandle, Southwest Florida, of course Southeast Florida, Central Florida, Northeast Florida. Please take advantage of that and do it. We want people to be able to get tested. Now, one of the reasons why we may not have quite as much as demand is you have had a decline in COVID-like illness visits statewide, as well as influenza-like illness visits statewide. So I would imagine that when people feel sick, they're more likely to want to get tested. If they don't have symptoms, that's a good thing. Now, you can still get tested if you don't have symptoms, but I understand why people may not want to do that. So the total test, so this is 45-day overview. If you notice, yesterday the state reported over 30,000 test results. Now these are when the state gets the test results. So it doesn't mean that that's the number of tests that are administered. What happens is there'll be backlogs with private labs sometimes. Now we're turning around the rapid test with our mobile unit. That's reported the next day, which is very good. So you see there's some up and down, but the trend is obviously up. If you look, since we've been in phase 1, we're typically between 15 and 25,000 test results a day. Of course, the 15th is an exception, and that was really, there were backlog results. They then were put the next day, and so you had a higher 27,000, probably should have been between around 15,000 both days, but that's just the way it is. There was one of the days, I think it was Sunday's report, that had 500 positives for Miami-Dade, and 400 of those were backlog results from April 24th. So that was more than 3 weeks ago. So that's just when you're dealing with some of the private test sites, when you're dealing with some of the private labs. But I think the trend is up, and clearly the accessibility is there. As the tests have gone up dramatically, you still have seen the positivity rate. In fact, I think today it was 1.9% statewide. The only times we've even been at 4 or 5 lately is when you've had prison outbreaks. At a prison outbreak, you're going to have a higher percentage of the inmates are going to test positive because it spreads when you have a wing of people that are infected. And then the nursing homes typically are going to be more than 2 or 3%. Those are anywhere. I think the staff is typically 3-4% positive. The residents are a little bit higher than that. And most of what we have been seeing last week, saw some prison outbreaks. Today, not as much on the prisons. There were some, but anytime you see a little spurt, almost always affiliated with the long-term care facility. So we're going to continue working on that. But the testing is available for Floridians who want it, and we would obviously urge you to just go out and get it done. All right, reemployment assistance update. So we faced in Florida a prospect of really an unprecedented surge in reemployment claims, given the unprecedented nature of what was effectively a national shutdown of huge portions of our economy. And that was going to be a challenge under any circumstances, but it was an even greater challenge given that this system, which the state has paid a lot of money for in the past, was really not up to the job. This was a system that was designed to have 1,000 individual users on the website at a given time, and you could surge it to 5,000. So that was kind of the vision of what you would need. Well, when you're in a situation like this, that's the equivalent of throwing a jalopy in the Daytona 500. It's just not going to cut it. And so you needed to expand capacity big time. We did that. I'll go over some of the steps that we've taken and continue to take. But this was a big challenge. It's taken a lot of work. This is still not the best designed system. But as of yesterday, almost 1 million unique, complete, and eligible applicants. And of that, you have 97.6% has received payment. So that was someplace that we were so far away of 6 weeks ago. So now you're in a situation, 975,656 Floridians have been processed and have received payment. And here's how the math comes. You have total claims about 2 million, but some were duplicates because, look, I understand people were, when the Connect system, you couldn't even get on it. They would go submit a paper application. When PEGA was put up, some people did PEGA. So obviously you got to separate out. You only get one application. And then there's some that just will go on and they'll put some information but don't actually complete the application. So if you deduct that, you're at 1.6 million unique claims. There's 172,770 that are currently in the verification process, and I'll mention kind of as we go on a little bit what that's all about. So you have 1.468 million total processed claims, and this is all just in the last 2 months, most of it in the last probably 6 or 8 weeks. So you have that. 468,000 are ineligible for reemployment assistance in the state. There's various reasons for that. There's some who are independent contractors who wouldn't qualify under state law, but as you note, there's almost 100,000 who are eligible for the federal $600. Most of the applicants, fortunately, are eligible for both, but you do have some that aren't. And then, of course, you have some people that just aren't eligible. Some of them don't even live in Florida. Some of them make money out of state. Some of them don't have a valid identity social security number. So about 1 million eligible, and 97.6% of those who are eligible and processed have been paid. And since March 15th, the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity has paid out $2.659 billion. $2,659,797,859 just since March 15th. And so that is, to say that is unprecedented in the agency's history, really wouldn't be doing that word justice. In fact, if you look out, the department has paid out more money in the last 10 weeks than it had in the previous 5 years combined. So 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, and 2019, if you aggregate all the money that the agency paid out, you've had more just in the last 10 weeks than that. And so that's a big time effort. It's obviously has required a lot of trial and error and a lot of work, but that's a significant amount of money. So mention, 2 million, you have almost 400,000 that were duplicates, have errors, or incomplete, so about 1.6 million unique claims. So why are some reasons why people can't be processed? Obviously, you got to complete the application. So if you don't have a last name, you don't have a social security number, that's going to be problematic. You have to be able to have your identity verified. So a social security number is going to be required, and it's actually required under federal law that be verified as a legitimate social security number. You will have claims that are locked for fraudulent activity, and there's different triggers for that. Some triggers are someone submits a claim, It's valid, they get paid, and then they go on again and submit another one, and that will cause the account to be locked. Sometimes people just didn't realize they got paid and were trying to do it again, but there's certain pitfalls with that. So anytime you have multiple claims for the same person, there is going to be a fraud alert on that. And then obviously you got to provide work history information. Reemployment assistance for people that lost their jobs, and so you have to show the source of employment. Of the 1.6 million unique claims, about 500,000, 28.6%, were deemed ineligible at some point in the process. Now, normally, in a normal environment, the majority of claims that are submitted for reemployment assistance in Florida are deemed ineligible. And so this, I think, the majority of claims are being paid, but that's obviously more reflective of these extraordinary circumstances. So why would you be deemed ineligible? If the employment separation was deemed a discharge for misconduct, if the claimant voluntarily quit work without good cause, the claimant received income for the week they were claiming unemployment, if the claimant was not able and available for work. So these are things just basically under the law and how you're doing. And we do have people that are applying for Florida reemployment who are receiving wages in other states, and so that obviously would render you ineligible if that were the case. You do have the federal pandemic unemployment assistance, and so the vast majority of the applicants in Florida are getting up to $275 a week from the state, and then $600 a week from the federal government. And so that is something that is broader than the state's rules, because you could be an independent contractor and potentially qualify for what they call PUA. So we have almost 100,000 of the ineligible state RA claims have already been deemed eligible for PUA, and then more of these are being worked through the system now. So I'd imagine you'll see that number grow, which is obviously a good thing. I mean, the unemployment was written for kind of the typical employee. You do have some folks who are contractors or whatever, that it's really good that the federal benefits are available to them. And so this was something that required overcoming a lot of challenges. There's still to this day glitches being fixed every single day, software upgrades. But we were in a situation where people, at one point the system was down like 75% of the time. The system, the website wasn't even up. And any decent website is up 99.999% of the time. So big problem, and there were a lot of things done to troubleshoot that, including a mobile-friendly website, an adapter so that data can be transferred from the new mobile-friendly site to Connect, paper applications, which many people availed themselves, and actually free printing and mailing through FedEx. I personally talked to the CEO of FedEx and asked for that assistance, and they graciously provided it. Also Career Source Florida and local governments. So getting those claims in, now this was at least 100,000, I think many more than that. Massive boxes inside DEO, had all kind of employees having to surge to meet that, but I think it was the right thing to do, because if someone couldn't get on the system, they needed a way to be able to file the claim. The customer service centers, I mean, there were not very many calls being received in February, I can tell you that, because unemployment was so low. So this has been a big issue to be able to get more representatives. And so there's now 5 customer service centers with nearly 6,000 trained representatives. There's certain training that takes place in a matter of days for things like PIN resets. Some of the more intensive had normally taken a month. That's been streamlined to 2 weeks. And again, this is because of the problem, being so massive. You have to surge personnel to be able to do that. Obviously, reemployment is based on the idea that it's temporary. You need to be looking for work. Well, obviously the jobs were drying up. It was not a time where you're going to be able to go out and find a lot of people hiring. So I, as governor, suspended the work search requirements in a way in order to speed this thing along. System was overwhelmed. People could not sign on to recertify. You do have to recertify every 2 weeks. We suspended that, but we did bring in 72 servers to be able to allow more concurrent users on the Connect system. And again, that's taking that jalopy, understanding you're running in Daytona, you're going to get left in the dust, bring in more servers, make all these different upgrades, this is like the SAN system, transfer speeds, software optimizations. That's getting under the hood, understanding you kind of have what you have, and how can you make it so that people can eventually get their money. And so that's what was being done for days and days and weeks and really 24 hours a day for a lot of this stuff. We wanted to make sure the money got out as quickly as possible. Now, normally, if you were unemployed in, say, January, it would take a couple weeks before you really could even apply. So there was a waiting week, you had to apply for jobs, and then by the time it went through the system, it was definitely a 4 to 5 week process in normal times. And so that obviously was not something that we wanted to see here, given the urgency of the situation. And now we didn't get there immediately with shortening it, but now we're at the point where we have. But suspending the waiting week was something that I did important. We brought in over 2,000 state employees and other agencies to be able to help with the reemployment issues. Of course, all kind of hardware and software. And then we brought in the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles to verify the Social Security numbers. We were running that through the federal government, and their system was very slow. Obviously, everyone across the country is taxing that right now. So it was doing like 1,000 a day or something like that. That would have taken a year to go through all the claims we had. Fortunately, we had other options, so we went highway safety, and they were able to verify the Social Security numbers, which is really good, and it's helped speed this process along. So, steps to receiving payment: obviously file a complete application at floridajobs.org. You will get a notification by email or mail. There'll be directions explaining how to log in to connect and proceed with your claim. And I would just say we've seen a lot of claims where you don't necessarily have all the information there. So Social Security number, some of that very, very important, because the claim's going to stop if it doesn't have those informations. There is a verification process. The amount of fraudulent requests, that just happens on any government program. And so you have to verify identity, you have to verify wages from previous employers. That's what the law requires. But quite frankly, I think the taxpayers want that money going to the people who are unemployed. But if someone isn't really unemployed, then of course you want to make sure that money's there for the people that really need it. So there's a process with that. And then of course the monetary determination. What you will have sometimes is, and there's a process under the law, where someone will apply for it and the employer may contest it. And so there's just a process that ensues. That's not because the Connect system isn't functioning. That's the way the law is written. I was in Tampa, and there was a reporter that said, hey, I have so-and-so who is still waiting for a check. And I was like, well, do you have any information? She's like, no, I don't have any. I was like, well, give me the information, and we'll look. And it turned out that the individual had left the job voluntarily before the pandemic hit, and the employer is contesting it. So there's just a process that goes along with that. But if your employer contests it, that's something that's outside of whether Connect is functioning or not. The payments are going out via direct deposit or prepaid card based on your selection, and obviously the direct deposit is an easier thing. But I mean, the amount of payments that are being processed through, unlike anything in the state's history, to be able to do this. So this puts some claim numbers in perspective. You look throughout all those years when the system was designed to handle 1,000 people on the system a day, or at a time, maybe 5,000. You can see why. I mean, there just weren't as many claims filed on a weekly basis. As we get into this massive uptick in claims. And this is interesting. That's the total claims filed on this, 1.474 million, just between March 15th and March 19th. I mean, I think March 15th is kind of a pretty good date. Actually, maybe even you would do the 17th or 18th when they started the 15 days to stop the spread. Remember, the week before that, they were saying, go on a cruise, go to a campaign rally, just sneeze in your elbow and wash your hands. And then that went into groups no larger than 10, shut down bars, restaurants, all this stuff. So it was a massive pivot by the feds and by others. And so that was really the inflection point. And so just in these 2 months, and compare that, those 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, that's the entire year for number of claims filed. And so it's so out of proportion to anything that we have ever seen in modern Florida history to be able to process that type of claim. And then you see number of unique claims received. As the system got optimized better, you'd be able to get more people to submit claims, and then now obviously, of course, up with a higher number there. Reemployment assistance processed. Again, we mentioned that, but as you see, kind of late March, clearly there were problems. The agency really wasn't able to get in a good spot. I brought in John to be able to do some things, and he helped push it forward. Made a huge bunch of changes kind of from that April 6th through, I would say, maybe 14th to 20th. And then you see as those changes started to get in, as some of that architecture was fixed, you started to be able to get more claims processed. And those big jumps are kind of on the weekends when take some stress off the system, let people apply via PEGA, and then just process to be able to get people their money. And I think that that's probably been the right way to go about it. All right, so payments made. As we said, 97.6 of eligible completed applications have received payment. And as you see, that's really gone up, particularly over the last several weeks. You see some jump there. It looks like about that third or fourth week of April, and then continuing on into May to continue to see some jumps there. So almost now close to 1 million claimants paid. And again, that's the amount of money that represents way more than the previous 5 years. Reemployment Assistance Fund distributed, again, almost $2.7 billion at this point, and we have seen some nice jumps, particularly in the last few weeks. Name me another state that actually puts this stuff out. We have a dashboard with this out. And we decided to put that out when the system was at its nadir in terms of effectiveness. The numbers were horrible. There were so many applications piling up. People couldn't even get on, but we said, you know, we've got to put this out there, and we need something. The agency needed something to be able to build towards. The agency wanted, that's public, you take pride in getting those numbers down, and that's exactly what we did. You go to some other states, no one has any idea how many claims are pending or how many people have been paid. And so putting up that dashboard was something that really hurt to do because none of us were obviously happy with how this looked at the beginning of April. But I think it was the right thing to do, and I think it has added fuel to the fire of the agency to say, you know what, we really need to get this out, and that's got to be our sole focus. And that's going to continue to be the sole focus. This is a difficult time. I think we're transitioning, hopefully, into a time where the economy can start to do a little bit better, and hopefully much better in the not too distant future. I wish that could happen overnight, and maybe it will, but I got to assume that this is going to be a process. So in the meantime, get that payment out as quickly as possible. And I can report that there are people that have already been paid who applied within the last 10 days, whose applications were submitted, fully done, they're verified, and then the payment has gone out. So the process that they're using has gotten a lot better, and it's taken a lot of work. There's still issues with this because, again, as you work on that engine, as you do all that, and you're going around the track at Daytona, you still have somewhat of a jalopy. And so you can put those other engine parts in there, has made a difference, but you got to keep tending to it, and you got to keep doing other things. But I do want to thank Secretary Satter. It was a tough assignment to come in. I'm glad that we've paid out almost $2.7 billion. I know that more needs to be done, and we're going to continue to work with people to be able to get more done.